This episode was sponsored by the Women's History Initiative at the Utah Historical Society, deepening our collective understanding and appreciation of the many roles women play in history. history.utah.gov/women. And by our patrons, Kim Hokinson, Bree Smith, Robin Brown, Cornelia Weiss, Heather Justin, Jan-Elise Cannon, Jamie Lang, Valerie Jacobson, Maria Sanchez, Jill Harrigan, Heather McKinnon, Michaela Frew, Amanda Gilmore, Sarah Mikado, Monique Harris-Pixato, and Caitlin McTaggart. Thank you so much for being our sponsors. We couldn't do it without you. You can be a sponsor for as little as $1 a month to help make more episodes happen and to get these episodes ad-free. Hi, Olivia.
Hi, Katie.
Today, we're going to join the Stampeders in the Klondike Gold Rush.
Ooh.
A massive international event whose impact can hardly be overstated in modern history.
Ooh!
In the late 1800s, the Klondike was the last great frontier in the Yukon, Canada, very near the Arctic Circle, inhabited by a group of less than 100 Tagish people living in 2 clans.
Wow.
Until August 17th, 1896, gold was found.
Oh, poor them.
An insane amount of gold. It was found by a fascinating character, a prospector known as Lying George.
Again, why do prospectors always have the best names?
Yes, so we get another episode full of amazing nicknames.
Wow.
Lying George would tell lots of different versions of his gold strike story before his life was through. And rumor had it that none of his versions were true. And he certainly staked the first claim. Then he sent word to all the other prospectors up there in the far north, triggering the most epic gold rush stampede of them all into the frozen north. Years later, as she settled into old age, George Carmack's wife, Shaaw Tláa, known to the world as Kate Carmack, started to open up about her version of the story. She wasn't one to brag, but she was the one who found the gold, she said, while she was washing the dishes in the creek and all the men were asleep.
Wow.
We will never know the total amount of gold that came out of the Klondike, but it was an insane amount. And at the center of this absolutely bonkers episode in world history is one very enigmatic woman. Shaaw Tláa, Kate Carmack, wife of Lying George Carmack, and in my version at least, the woman who found the gold that started the Klondike Gold Rush that changed the world. So, get ready, Olivia. Today, you're going to venture into the Klondike and see if you would have survived the impossible journey.
No, I can tell you right now. No. No, I would not. And also, no thank you.
Would you do it if the possibility of success meant literally millions of dollars back then? So, like,
no.
Billions. You still wouldn't.
I still wouldn't. It's cold. Have you met me? No.
And I think that's maybe what makes the Klondike so extra fascinating. It's like, who went? Who thought that's the journey for me? So if we had gone, and we did get filthy stinking rich, virtually overnight, would sudden, unimaginable wealth turn out well for you?
No, it never does for anyone. It's a terrible idea.
As we shall see.
Oh, the number of people who have successfully navigated sudden unimaginable wealth without being destroyed by it.
And I can think of no more extreme example of that than Shaaw Tláa, Kate Carmack. I'm Katie Nelson.
And I'm Olivia Mickle.
And this is What's Her Name?
Fascinating women you've never heard of.
Come with me to Klondike Gold Rush National Historic Park, smack in the middle of Seattle, Washington.
Oh.
Why Seattle?
Because there's people there and it's warmer.
That's what I thought. There is also a branch of the park up in Alaska, but I had no idea. Seattle is the city that made the gold rush happen, and the gold rush made Seattle a city. As we shall see. 2026 marks the 50th anniversary of the park, and this episode is kicking off the celebrations.
How fun.
It's an extremely well-done museum. Interactive, lots of great visuals, lots of amazing artifacts and stuff to learn. I loved it.
Okay. I'm going to strike it rich. Here we go. Very close.
One notch away from striking it rich.
Good job. You found some gold.
Oh my gosh, I found some gold.
That's where I met Lissa Kramer and Sydney Shoemaker, park curator and park ranger.
My name is Lissa Kramer. I am the park curator and cultural resources lead for the Klondike Gold Rush National Historical Park Seattle unit.
I'm Sydney Shoemaker, and I am a park ranger, but I manage the visitor center at Klondike Gold Rush National Historical Park in Seattle.
Lissa first came across Shaaw Tláa, known as Kate Carmack, decades ago on a little piece of paper in the archives.
I worked here during grad school as a museum tech, and we had a large archive of personal papers from John F. Hilscher. And John had written multiple versions of his memoirs on every scrap of paper he could find. He was a man who had gone around through the Klondike Gold Rush and gold rushes at Nome, gold rushes on the Kenai Peninsula. He'd been involved in all these hot spots in the late 1800s. And somewhere in there, when I was just processing papers, I saw this short comment from him. It was maybe a little bit snarky, honestly, just saying, well,
Kate found the gold.
Oh.
Kate found it while her husband and brother and nephew were sleeping on the bank. I was like, well, I've never heard that version before. What we hear is George Carmack, discoverer of Klondike gold. And so that just kind of stayed with me. And when I was working, I also curated at the Klondike Skagway for a while.
Up in
Alaska. They were more aware of Kate's role, or Shaaw Tláa is her Tagish name. They were more aware of her as an individual, but I still wasn't seeing that specific story represented, so I was kind of curious if there was other corroborating information, and that's just where I kind of started to become aware of like how many different versions of this story there were.
Kate Carmack, Shaaw Tláa, is so enigmatic. And the main reason why, in this case, is that she could not read or write. She never recorded her own story. And the people who claim to have heard her story from her all tell different versions. Also, she was married to Lying George.
Lying George.
So we're trying to get at her story, but all we have in source material is other people's views of her. Still, we can't let that stop us because she is central to the incredible Klondike story.
Multiple park sites across 2 countries were created to commemorate this bigger historical event. And in this 50-year history of these government sites, this person who is right at the epicenter of this historic event has really been in the shadows.
You cannot make this stuff up. I mean, even Lying George couldn't make up what we actually know about this amazing chapter in world history.
So she was born somewhere between 1854 and 1867. So it's a pretty big span of years. Around Marsh Lake, which is in southern Yukon. She grew up very traditionally.
She lives among the Tagish, who number less than 100 in 2 clans, and they migrate with the seasons across the vast subarctic Yukon. Winter is 9 months long at least. It's regularly 50 degrees below zero. Life is hunting, trading in furs, and salmon. As a child, she would have had dolls made from fur and wood. Children would construct these big swings, and they'd have one kid swinging in this big swing, and all the other children would move in a circle on the ground around this swing. You don't keep stones in your pockets, or you'll grow up to be lazy. You don't play with baby birds, or you'll bring on bad weather. So this was, a very, especially for the late 1800s, like I said, this is sort of the last frontier, and the Tagish are this very traditional people.
Although it's interesting to note that early in her life, she had already started to adopt wearing Western clothing, which I find really interesting, and it says a lot about what incredible trading networks were in place.
For Tagish girls, everything is leading to puberty. During puberty, you are isolated in anticipation of your period coming on, your first period. And when it does arrive, it's a pivotal moment. The future hangs in the balance. So the girl knows when it starts, stop exactly where she is, do not move. The women will come to her and build a shelter around her. And then she doesn't eat for 2 days. By doing that, she is ensuring that she won't go hungry for the rest of her life. She doesn't touch any water. So to drink water, she uses a swan bone straw. She blows on swan down so that she will be light on her feet for the rest of her life. She rubs her teeth with white rocks, and that will help guarantee that she is strong even into old age. She avoids fresh meat so she doesn't upset any animal spirits. And when she finally emerges from seclusion, there you are, it's time to get married. So she's probably 14. We don't know the actual date that she's born, so we can never know her exact ages. She married into the Tlingit on the coast.
She, like many of her relatives, had an arranged marriage with someone that she was actually related to, Cultus. She already had 2 older siblings who lived in that area and who had also married for trading alliances. Over the pass, the Chilkoot Trail.
The Chilkoot Trail. This is an ordeal. It's been dubbed the meanest 33 miles in history. This is a steep mountain pass that has conditions akin to Everest at the top. I mean, the climate changes as you go up and across. It rises 4,000 feet in 18 miles. The final half mile to the summit is so steep, you have to lash yourself to other climbers using rawhide, and you have to cut footholds into the snow. The risk...
Go around.
You can't. There is no around. The risk...
No, as someone who lives in the land of 14ers.
That's what I was
where
thinking.
Everyone goes and climbs mountains on their weekends.
Yeah.
I do not understand it. I've climbed the beginning of one for fun, and then waved goodbye to my husband as he climbed the 14er and went back to the library in my natural habitat.
I mean, there's so many dangers.
The
risk of falling to your death
Yeah.
is very real. This is compounded by blizzards. Fog will roll in, and you could freeze to death. And that's in the summer. Years of painfully acquired wisdom from Tagish and Tlingit said that you never even attempt the pass in the winter.
Oh, yeah, no.
So, Shaaw Tláa makes what would be her first of many crossings of the Chilkoot Trail at maybe age 14, and she's married. She starts building a whole new life in a very different coastal climate. Soon the day arrives when it's time for Shaaw Tláa to give birth. When her birth pangs begin, the women would slide an arrow down the front of her dress to hasten labor. She enters the birthing tent, and her husband would circle the tent outside, unlacing the strings of his shirt and singing a song to help the labor along. It was a safe and healthy birth. It was a girl.
Yay.
But life on the coast, it's a world of trading and ships. It's so exposed to outside pathogens.
Mm-hmm.
It was some kind of epidemic, maybe flu. Her siblings, her husband, and her baby all died.
Oh.
And so it was eventually agreed that she would go back to her mother, which was kind of unusual. Usually you're married to somebody else in the tribe to keep the alliance there, but they let her go back. So, back over the Chilkoot Trail to the home that she thought she'd left for good. She's still a teenager. So she's back with her family, moving with the seasons again, grieving her losses, and one day, fateful day in 1885, they come across a half-starved, half-frozen white man alone in the snow. And they save him. He can't speak Tagish. They can't speak his language, which turns out to be English. But over time, they learn to communicate. His name is George Carmack from a place called California.
He comes up there, 1885, with prospectors because he has gone AWOL from, was it the Marines? Am I right on that? It was the Marines.
Oh.
Yeah, and so he's trying to run away.
And find gold instead.
Yes.
It's a very Alaskan story. He was fully adopted into the clan. He was a part of life there.
And then that's when Kate and George end up getting married. Yeah.
None of them could have known that his fellow prospectors knew him as Lying George.
Yeah.
Why had his fellow prospectors left him on his own to die in the wilderness? We'll never know. He's got a sort of wan face, big old bushy handlebar mustache, and light brown hair, like just what you want a prospector to look like. None of them knew what it was to go AWOL from the Marines. There was, in fact, a $120 bounty on the head of any such Marine.
Wow.
But poor George, he was orphaned in California at age 12, and his older sister Rose was 14. Rose was married off at 14 as the solution, and George lived with his sister and her husband as a kid. Then, when he was old enough, off on an adventure, he works on some ships, he joins the Marines, he goes AWOL, he's prospecting in the Yukon, and now he's freezing to death. Has his fate taken an interesting turn. He's now married to Shaaw Tláa, resourceful, hardworking, incredibly knowledgeable about the land. This is going to be the great turning point of his life.
He actually spent his time with Kate and Kate's family, moving between the different seasons. So they packed in the summer as prospectors started coming up and using the passes.
She really had to teach him how. She had grown up learning these things and knew how to live in that environment. The environment of the Yukon is pretty dramatic. It's a very beautiful, grand place. Huge mountains, big sweeping valleys, ice fields, glaciers, boreal forest.
Yeah, and I think the common theme throughout is Kate and Kate's family keeping George alive. Really, Kate was doing a lot of trapping. She was sewing moccasins and mittens and quite successful at selling them. There's another story of George being like, I'm going to go off and search for gold later on by himself, even though everyone was like, don't do that. Like, now's not a good time. You don't have enough supplies, and them having to help him again. So, yeah, she really played a big role in keeping him and their family alive and well.
So this goes on for years, and in January 1893, after being married to George for 7 years, Shaaw Tláa gave birth to their first and only child, a girl. She named the baby Au, which means daughter of the lake, which was her sister's name, her sister who had just recently died in childbirth a few years before. And George chose her English name, Graffy Grace, after a character from a book that he'd borrowed from the mission. Fast forward 3 years. August 17th, 1896. Shaaw Tláa, now more commonly known as Kate, and George were camped on Rabbit Creek with Kate's older brother Jim. I love Jim. He is a marvelous character. Skookum Jim is what they called him. A jolly, light-hearted man, strong as a bear. He literally went hand to claw with a bear once. He's famous for packing 165 pounds of bacon over the Chilkoot Trail all by himself. He's an awesome guy. And they also have 2 of her nephews with them. They're fishing and they're processing salmon on Rabbit Creek. And what happened next?
We don't really know.
We don't really know.
Nobody
Nobody
knows.
Someone found gold.
Gold was found.
Yeah.
There it was, a big old nugget of gold in the creek. And more and more.
The 3 versions that I hear the most often are the one that George Carmack shared with his biographer, that he found it on Bonanza Creek. They named the claim Discovery. It's Discovery on Bonanza Creek. And that he was predominantly responsible. That story had changed over his lifetime, but the time it was finally published, this is what he went with. Then different researchers have the story that much of Kate's family knew, that her brother and nephew, Skookum Jim and Dawson Charlie, found it while they were moose hunting, just dragging a moose up the bank, and they just kind of came upon it. And so we know that this was one of the stories that was being shared around. I found it interesting that it wasn't until the end of her life that Kate herself actually said, well, actually, I found it while I was washing the dishes.
Of course, I love the version where Kate found it washing the dishes while the men slept.
Yeah. That seems way more reasonable.
Yes.
Than...
And it seems like if you were trying to analyze, well, which one would be the most likely to be suppressed? Which story would be the least likely to be told? It would be, oh, this native woman found it washing the dishes, and I can see their thought process at the time, like, well, a native woman can't stake a claim to begin with, so we can't have Kate finding it. So the safest thing is to have George finding it. And he's the one who is literate, too. So he's the one who went and filed all the claims. Yeah. So that is how it happened for me. Kate found the gold, in my mind. But anyway, whoever found the first nugget, it doesn't even really matter because all of them together are freaking out and they're pulling more and more gold from the creek. And they're like, this is it. This is it. George and Jim and the nephews, they all head into town to file official mining claims. The nearest town is a town called 40 Mile. That leaves Kate there alone with her toddler, guarding the place while they're gone for days. Like everything hangs in the balance. Imagine. Amazing. Anyway, each of the men got a claim. Kate did not have a claim in her name.
Right. So a native man can have a claim.
Yes. And then it's interesting, like the size of the claim, the number of claims you get and the size of them depends on how many people were present at the time. And that can include women. So they did count her as a person present so that they could claim more land, but only the men can make the claims.
Present when they found it?
Yeah.
Or present to live on it?
When they found it. Anyway.
They're probably trying to prevent, I've read too many Victorian novels, but there's a whole bunch of real and fictional stories of, Two men discover gold, and one of them murders the other one so as to have the only claim. But if you say, if there's two of you, you get a bigger claim, then maybe you don't murder your partner.
And that's actually what I was thinking of. I was thinking that they'd want to keep it secret and mine as much as they can. But that's not how the game works.
George was very, boisterous about it, it seems like.
He didn't mind that everybody else would come and take it?
Well, they were limited in how big their claims could be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And so they couldn't have staked the whole area anyway. And it was difficult to get things in and out. There was a shortage of food. So I guess in some ways it'd be a benefit to them to have more people in the area to make life easier. And if you got enough gold, then you could start to hire other people to get it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you needed other people around for that.
He spreads the word. We just got tons of gold out of Rabbit Creek.
Everybody
run. So the story goes, the next day, 40 Mile was deserted. And everybody was up at Rabbit Creek staking their claims.
In that first winter, if you were already up there, you got a shot at a claim. If you were not on that side of the pass, you had to wait for breakup of the rivers the next spring in order to get there.
They're mining through the winter, which has never really happened before, but they've invented this new technique.
You build a campfire and you unfreeze the soil and you dig down and you keep going until you hit bedrock, which is, am I correct, that's where gold veins are found on
That's
bedrock?
where gold veins are found, but also all that you're digging out on top of it, they would have maybe
gold flakes.
piled up for the winter so that they could sluice it in the spring.
They would
So
have water to pan and sluice.
that winter was really challenging for the people that were there.
It's light for only a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
And temperatures are 50 below. And they're just working through it.
And if you haven't experienced, I've experienced 42 below.
Ooh,
and
in Iowa?
In Iowa.
Wow.
Unfathomably cold.
And imagine being in a canvas tent, mining
No, I mean,
on a creek.
There's a reason I don't live there anymore.
Yes. Amazing. And this is where I think Shaaw Tláa's lifetime of experience is so invaluable to the whole team. And they work as a team. It's not just George. It's George, Jim, Charlie, Patsy, Kate. As a family, they are mining all of their claims together. So all the prospectors who were in 40 Mile, all the prospectors who are sort of the pros, they make it there by the first winter. The rest of the world doesn't even know really what is happening because they're not going to be able to get the gold out and they're not going to be able to get themselves out of the Yukon until the following spring.
And so it wasn't until the next spring that ships with all of the gold that they dug out of the frozen ground that whole first winter in 1896, they had to get it on boats, take them out. I think, when was it that the Portland came into Seattle?
It was July 17th, 1897.
The Seattle Post-Intelligencer, July 17th, 1897. Gold! 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 68 rich men have arrived today on the steamer Portland. Stacks of yellow metal. In the captain's cabin are 3 chests and a large safe filled with the precious nuggets. Of the 68 miners, hardly a man has less than $7,000, and 1 or 2 have more than $100,000 in yellow nuggets. San Francisco Examiner, July 18th, 1897. Reports from the land where the earth seems lined with gold. Yesterday, the steamer Portland reached Seattle, having on board nearly 1.5 tons of gold, and it is valued at nearly $700,000. Those who knew the least about mining are those who have made the big strikes. Now, hundreds of fortune hunters are hurrying northward, turning their eyes to the land of gold. Steamship companies report a great demand for transportation. There is every prospect of a Yukon mining boom, but there are also prospects of a hungry winter. Unless enterprise be used in sending supplies, some of the miners will almost certainly starve.
This episode was sponsored by the Women's History Initiative at the Utah Historical Society. Have you ever heard of Kuniko Muramatsu Terasawa? She immigrated from Japan to the United States in the early 1900s. With her husband, she published the Utah Nipo, a bilingual newspaper in Japanese and English that ran for 77 years. After her husband died in 1939, Terasawa took on full responsibility of keeping that paper running. She was an investigative reporter. She wrote the stories. She edited the stories. She also operated the typeset and published the paper herself. Learn more at history.utah.gov/women.
It's important to note that in 1893, our country experienced the greatest economic recession it had ever been in, and we didn't have safety nets. People were starving and desperate. And so you got people telling you, oh, you can literally just pick gold up off the ground. And it started pandemonium.
At this point, Seattle was a small, fairly irrelevant port town. But it was the town that contained one Erastus Brainerd, who rivals P.T. Barnum for showmanship.
He does a very good job of selling Seattle as the place, the jumping off point, the gateway to the gold fields. He has lots of marketing strategies. He creates these Klondike information brochures, and he sends them out to every city with a population of over 5,000 or something specific like that. He did his job well.
And he really
really
leveraged, like, there was just recently rail access. Like, you can get here on the train, and then you just take a boat, and it's so easy.
Yeah.
Well, that opened up this whole crazy market for merchants in Seattle. Anything that you could sell, any way you could sell it.
You will need a pair of these. We carry Alaska footwear of every description. When you go to the Klondike, Seattle is the only place to outfit yourself with the real junk that you need. Alaska mush. Martin, the great cook, has a very substantial and powerful food which will be of great benefit to miners. Very little of the food is necessary to sustain life. 3 or 4 spoonfuls of his Alaska mush in a cup of hot water is sufficient for a meal. Samples will be given for the public to test Friday, August 6th at Martin's Restaurant, 545 Merton Street. Direct to the gold fields. Fare $300, including 1 year's provisions and 150 pounds baggage. Elegant steamer. Sales August 14th, 1897. Apply to C.P. Troy & Company, 630 Market Street. Klondike boats, ready to ship. 24 feet long, 2 feet deep. Will carry 2 tons. Also Alaska sleds and burros for sale.
There was an article written by Annie Hall Strong in the Skagway News, and it's recommendations for what women should bring when they go on the Klondike Gold Rush. And I think there's a really fun quote here. She starts her article by saying, "Women have made up their minds to go to the Klondike, so there is no use trying to discourage them. Our wills are strong and courage unfailing." I think that applies to all the women up there in the Klondike.
What did they tell the women to bring?
Oh,
What did you
here,
need
I
if you were
have-
women in the Klondike?
I have very detailed list. 1
Great.
pair of house slippers, 1 pair of knitted slippers, 3 different types of boots, 3 pairs of summer stockings, 1 good dress, 1 suit heavy Mackinaw waist and bloomers, 1 summer dress, a cotton night dress, a long sack night dress made of flannel, a pair of heavy wool gloves, 3 aprons, some sort of gloves for summer wear. And then they mention multiple like mosquito netting options to protect yourself from the mosquitoes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Let's imagine, Olivia, that you are one of the few women who's decided to chance it in the Klondike. You are one of 70,000 stampeders who have poured into Seattle to get your supplies before you head out, okay? Let me offer you a list of some of the items that you can acquire in Seattle. And you tell me if you would like to buy it. And we'll see if your trek succeeds. Okay?
Oh, we're playing Real Life Oregon Trail.
Yes, we are.
Klondike Frozen edition.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, Canada is aware that there's all these unprepared idiots who are trying to make it to the Klondike. So they actually made a law You had to have 1 ton of
Wow.
supplies before they would let you undertake the journey. So they had scales, and you had to haul your sled, and like they would weigh it.
Well, good for them.
Okay, here are the things that you can purchase in Seattle if you like. Obviously, you're going to purchase all your food stuffs and tent and yada yada. But also,
Right.
for a price, if you really want to get the gold, if you want to be the one to succeed, would you like to purchase any of these things? Automated gold pans. Frost extraction device. Insect-proof mask. Crystallized eggs. Klondike bicycle. Scurvy cure. Collapsible boat. Steam-powered sled. Slot machine using gold nuggets. Would you like to purchase any of these premium items?
A slot machine that dispenses gold nuggets, or that you put in gold nuggets?
I think you put in gold nuggets.
That's amazing.
One of my my favorite things in our collection is this electric belt. It's a belt that you would wear, and it's electrified, and it was supposed to help make you more manly. Because you needed to be manly to get the gold, to be in the north.
It like electrocutes you a little bit, or
Yeah, and it makes you more manly.
do they have electricity in the mining camps in the Klondike?
Or the golden gophers. Someone was trying to sell gold sniffing gophers. You would just have to bring your gophers with you, and they would sniff out the gold for you.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, for a time machine, I want to wander Seattle during the gold rush and see what is
Amazing.
for sale. They mined the miners in Seattle.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you like to buy?
A steam-powered sled is absurd. I mean, what are you powering it with?
Okay.
What is a frost extraction device?
It extracts frost.
Yeah, what does that mean?
You'll find out when you get there.
Yeah.
I'll give you a hint. Only one of these is a useful purchase. Which one is it?
Well, probably the automated pan thing, if it actually does that.
Yeah.
But don't you need someone there looking at it to go, don't throw that part away?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
what did I forget? What's the useful thing that I forget?
It's none of those devices. The only thing that's actually useful is the scurvy cure.
Oh, yes, of course. Duh.
Yeah. But
Which
I
is
think,
presumably vitamin C.
yeah, well, it could have been snake oil, but it actually did work.
It's like orange peel or something.
Extremely useful in the Arctic. So that's the only purchase that would have made a difference at all.
All right.
Oh, I love imagining all these people rolling up in the Klondike with these devices, especially the gold sniffing gophers,
Yeah.
and going, what?
Yeah,
This
incredible.
is useless. I paid a fortune.
They're going to smell a mineral.
Yeah. Oh,
The people who were already up there that first winter, they knew what they were doing. They knew how to live there. They knew how to mine. This huge group of other people, not as much. And people came from all over the world. There were so many different nationalities. I know that there were Chinese and Japanese people up there, even though at that time our official national policy was exclusion, but they were still there. But they really looked at it as a big adventure. And for a lot of them, when they eventually came back, or even if they didn't quite get there, they regarded it as the grand adventure of their lives.
the journey to the Klondike was this epic journey worthy of J.R.R. Tolkien. I mean, you had to cross the Chilkoot Trail, and that was only a small part of your journey. Every stage was this wild new challenge, and the people going largely did not have the skills required to succeed.
Sure, no, of course not.
Well, and the pass was only the first 32 miles.
Oh.
It's so steep that they call it the Golden Staircase. And it would have been back to back to back to back people at the height of the stampede. We have photos of it.
But there's so many people there. The photographs is just this endless stream going up the pass. You look closer and you're like, that's people.
If you stepped out of line, you could wait hours to get your place back to be able to keep going. And they would hike up because the Royal Mounted Police were at the top of the pass, and they wouldn't let you into Canada if you didn't have enough food to survive for a year. There are giant scales that are still there. If you hike the Chilkoot Trail today, you'll see the scales where all the goods were weighed.
And you can't haul 1,000 pounds, so you're doing it a batch at a time. You climb up dragging maybe 75 pounds, and then there's a slide. You slide back down and you get your next batch of stuff and you haul that up.
Hike up the Golden Staircase to the top of the pass. At that point, you'd hike a little bit further till you could get to Lake Lindeman and Lake Bennett, and you'd have to build your own boat and take the boats, and then you'd have to take the river through Miles Canyon up to Whitehorse, and then you were only part way. If you saw the passes, I mean, one of them came to be known as Dead Horse Trail because even horses couldn't make it. And it was, I mean, today we can drive from Whitehorse to Dawson City in about 10 hours. Not then. You would have taken the river and you'd have to go through the Five Finger Rapids, and a lot of people capsized through there, going past Fort Selkirk and Carmack's and all of these places until you'd finally get there.
And a lot of people didn't know how to build a boat.
Yeah.
We have a journal downstairs of William Shape, and we have published copies, and he writes that I just watched the person next to me and how they built their boat, and so that's how I built my boat. Okay.
I can't even imagine the insane saga of 1897 to 1898 over the course of just 2 years. All the while, Kate and George and Jim and their nephews Charlie and Patsy, they just watch it all go down. All the while, they are pulling more and more and more gold out of the ground. They are insanely rich. And they leave. They get on this boat and sail into Seattle to
Quite right.
a sort of glorious entry. Everybody hears that they're coming. They go out to meet the boat. No one knows how much money Kate and George and her family pulled out of their mines. But it's in the millions. It's millions and millions back then.
At that point, Kate was regarded as the richest indigenous person in the world.
Wow.
So to give us an idea of what millions means back then, you could buy an entire hotel in Seattle for $2,500, which George did as soon as they got into Seattle. He bought this hotel for $2,500, and they have millions and millions of dollars.
Wow.
But they didn't live in that hotel. They lived in the Seattle Hotel, which was the swankiest of swanky hotels.
And George managed the money for the whole family group. And they were pretty close, by all accounts, all the way through this early period. Really took care of each other.
The Seattle Post-Intelligencer, September 1st, 1898. George Carmack, the discoverer of the Klondike, who is registered at the Seattle Hotel, is a subject of much interest to everybody who sees him. He is accompanied by his Indian wife and baby and his brothers-in-law. Carmack does not look like a man who would discover a gold mine. Carmack is not one of those individuals who believe in coming out of the Klondike and leaving his wife behind to look after the children. He says, "When you go off on a little journey, take your wife with you. The change will do her good, and civilization will not harm the children so long as they don't get too much of it." They can visit the United States and still be honest, according to Carmack's way of looking at it. He takes his Indian wife and baby with him, and Skookum Jim and his other brothers-in-law accompany him too. Carmack is very glad to have them. They're good company, he says, and he would not care to see all the sights knowing that they were missing it all. The Seattle Post-Intelligencer, September 1st, 1898. Yesterday, unheralded and unannounced, George Carmack and his Indian wife and brothers amused themselves by throwing gold coins from the top floor of the Seattle Hotel. As the merry jingle of the coins resounded and the pieces bounded from the pavement into the street, men dived from the sidewalks and off passing streetcars, butcher boys and teamsters hurled themselves into the air from their seats. The street became a seething mass of struggling humanity. A barber who had been standing on the corner when the golden deluge began was one of the first into the scramble and the last to emerge. He went in spotlessly clean and came out torn and bleeding, but in his hands he had $11, which he thought would recompense him for the experience. One man went into the scramble with a good hat and came out empty-handed and bareheaded. All this time, Carmack and his native Alaskan friends were splitting themselves with laughter in their apartments at the top of the hotel. Having nothing but money, they knew of no better amusement than dropping coins in the street. The idea is amusing, but decidedly uncommon in Seattle.
For a few years, they're living the life of the wealthy traveler. They're going to Southern California to visit Rose, George's sister. They go back to Seattle, up to Alaska, back to San Francisco, and sort of George is depositing money in all these different banks as he goes. And it's one prolonged self-destruct, I think. Just as you might imagine. But for Kate, she's entered a world which is completely new to her. She's literally never seen a place like Seattle with electric lights and stone and brick buildings and paved streets and horses. So the reports of their behavior, as reported in the newspaper, which may or may not be believable in any way, is that there was a fair amount of fighting, drinking, never fitting in anywhere.
Yeah.
And they seem to be losing the sense of who they are.
Eventually, George and Kate went to California and lived with his sister. And George leaves Kate there and did not come back. He writes his sister saying, "I'm not coming back. I don't want to see Kate."
I don't want to see Kate anymore. I haven't been happy with her in a long time. Something like, oh, classic, right?
He needs an electric belt to man up.
But Kate and Rose are shocked by his letter. Like, what do you mean you don't want to see Kate again? You have been devoted and dedicated all these years. You guys have been inseparable. And he tells Rose, send her back to her people in the Yukon. We're done. So they're still reeling from this letter. They're like, this can't be right. This isn't the George that we know. When a stranger shows up at the door, calling herself Mrs. Mary St. Clair, and she says, you might like to know that your husband, George, is living with another woman in San Francisco. Marguerite Legrand, also known as Marguerite Saftic, or Bridget Legrand, or Biddy McCarthy.
Marguerite was an independent businesswoman.
She was a cigar store owner.
She was a cigar girl.
Yeah.
It's a euphemism.
Oh.
They did actually have a cigar store. You had a presentable street front and you had an out the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and evidence is that she wasn't the first person he met. There was very probably someone he met before, because we got names. But Kate didn't know any of this.
But Kate refused to go. She refused to be sent back to her people, and instead she got a lawyer.
Yay!
And at this point I think about it like, okay, they've been married now for
13 years, just about.
years. And the majority of that time, you know, they had lived together in the wilderness, and by all accounts, very well. I think about it like any marriage. Like, you know, do marriages survive like really tumultuous events?
Yeah.
And what more tumultuous event could you have than a sudden change in your economics? And when you're suddenly the most famous people in the world, you are huge celebrities and you've come from obscurity, who's equipped for that? It seems that the folks who knew her in California largely regarded her as a lady, as a pretty genteel, elegant, kind person.
The divorce suit is long, convoluted, for many reasons, such as, were they ever really married? If they were, Canadian law apply or American law? So it's going to be, the most complicated divorce ever.
It's just like the worst public divorce in history. It's just brutal.
Eventually, her loyal brother, Skookum Jim, he comes to get her and takes her and her daughter, Graffy Grace, back to the Yukon. He built them a little cabin to live in, and she returned to her roots, making and selling moccasins and mittens. By this point, the Klondike was a tourist attraction. The gold rush had ended, but now people were going up there just to see where it all went down. And once her daughter Graffy was 17, she went to Seattle to visit her dad and got pregnant by none other than the brother of Marguerite, cigar shop Marguerite. And he was twice her age. Ew. I do not like this at all. To me, I see predatory scheming. I see this girl is going to be insanely rich, and it's a whole plot. Ugh. Anyway, so Graffy, she never returned to Kate ever again. She would write occasionally and say she planned to visit, but she never did. The divorce suit dragged on beyond both Kate and George's lives. So Kate lived out the rest of her life in a small cabin with no material wealth, but with community and belonging. I wish we could visit her in that stage of her life and say, did you realize the gold was a curse? And did you consciously become penniless? I don't think so, because she did keep fighting for her portion. Forever. But she also did very consciously leave that world behind and go back to her Tagish people.
Wow.
She died when the Spanish flu, the famed, 1918 outbreak. The Yukon was one of the last places to get hit, so it was 1920 when it arrived. But when it did, she was one of the many who died of the flu. When she died, her possessions were listed as 1 pair of sealskin gloves and 1 gold watch engraved with her initials. And that's it. Her humble grave was marked with a plank of wood.
Who amongst us could have lived the life she lived? There's one item I have never gotten to see that I really would love to, and it was made by Kate. I believe it's made out of squirrel skins. She made a cape, a Victorian-style cape that hangs to about the waist. And I've seen pictures of it, and it's beautiful. It's so well made. But it's made in Victorian style out of traditional materials and methods. And it's just to me, the greatest artifact of demonstrating who Kate was and her adaptability. She didn't reject everything that had happened in her life. She carried it with her, and she just incorporated it. And the pictures of her in her later years taken in Carcross, they are the ones that I've seen where she's smiling the biggest.
The story of the Klondike has been told so many different ways, and all of the first and most famous books about the Klondike, they give lying George Carmack the credit, and it's a smear campaign against Kate Carmack. She becomes sort of this villain in the story. It makes for a lively tale, but, that's not the whole story.
Yeah. Kate's voice is missing in her own story to a large extent. She lived through a lot. She lived through pandemics. She lived through multiple marriages and multiple children, losing a child. I think she's an amazing woman for her ability to adapt to really incredibly different situations and moving through so many different cultures. She spoke at least 4 languages. Being able to neither read nor write, she still was this incredibly accomplished woman. And as unique and enigmatic as I find Kate, she's one of us. And ultimately, anybody is. It's important to be empathetic with our predecessors, trying to put ourselves into anybody's shoes. Why do people do what they do? You know, every behavior has a reason.
To add to that, you're talking about like, what would I do in this situation? I think that's really important when reading history in general. Like, I think that's a great way to do it, because every time you learn about a new person, no matter who it is, you're gaining a totally new perspective and a totally different lens at which to look at the world or an event that you get from learning about people.
Happy 50th anniversary to Klondike Gold Rush National Historical Park, both in Seattle, Washington, and in Alaska. Consider visiting it if you are anywhere near those locations. I highly recommend it. And special thanks to Lissa Kramer and Sydney Shoemaker for making this episode possible. If you want to learn more about Kate Carmack, Shaaw Tláa, I've got a great biography to recommend for you called Wealth Woman by Deb Vanass, which you can find on our website, What'sHerNamePodcast.com. In addition to links to all kinds of other delightful Klondike material, there's a manual for gold seekers written in 1897, which I could not put down, digital exhibits at the United States Postal Museum, and a Women of the Klondike digital exhibit. Totally delightful. This episode was recorded on site by Mark Nelson, and our newsreels were voiced by James Henderson. Music was generously shared by Kevin MacLeod, Aaron Kenny, Quincas Moreira, Minnie Vandals, Sir Cubworth, Jesse Gallagher, the U.S. Marine Band, Doug Maxwell, Amulets, and Daniel Foster Smith. Thank you so much for donating. Thanks for listening.